Despite going 30-13 and having the NBA's second best offense, the Bucks shocked the world the other day by firing their new head coach this season, Adrian Griffin. It's a decision that raised eyebrows, especially if you focus on offense and record alone. But as we're about to review, the crux of the issue lies in their defense. They've fallen to bottom 10 in defensive rating. They're allowing more points per possession in transition and at the rim than ever before, and they continue to struggle to regain that Bucks defensive identity that won them a title. So let's review. When the Bucks first traded for Dame Lillard, they gained obviously an elite shot creator and closer, but they lost one of the best point of attack defenders in the NBA in Jrue Holiday. The impact of this and their general lack of strong point of attack defense has been pretty heavily felt this season, and it's a large reason why they've struggled a lot. Now, this clip comes from one of the Bucks' first few games this season where they were playing a bit different schematically. Notice how high Brook Lopez is in this pick and roll compared to his normal drop positioning, where he'd be much further back. Now, the Bucks have since changed this. Brook Lopez and others reportedly met with Adrian Griffin and they reversed this scheme. Brook Lopez plays more in drop right now, but here we can see why it didn't work. He's much slower than Tyler Hero, and he can't backpedal nearly fast enough to contain this dribble. It's not helping that Malik Beasley is 2 steps behind, basically, on Tyler Hero. And what happens here is that Tyler Hero is able to gain pretty easy dribble penetration. He doesn't ultimately go for the shot because Brook Lopez is here contesting. Brook Lopez is a great blocker. He ends up kicking it out all the way to Kevin Love and ends in a missed 3. So, that's not really important that he missed the 3. The important part is that a lot of opportunities can be gained from ball handlers that generate paint touches if your point of attack defense is weak. We're going to see more themes of this as we continue. So in this second clip, we have another example of a point of attack breakdown leading to easy offense. Colin Sexton pretty easily sizes up Malik Beasley here and gets easy dribble penetration. You can see that Malik Beasley is already off balance, and by the time he reaches right here, you can see that he's probably going to end up going that way. I think Brook Lopez sees this and tries to accommodate for it by putting his hands up as he does right here. But you can see Colin Sexton instantly delivers this pass to John Collins for the easy floater that Brook Lopez can't contest in time. And the reason that type of opportunity happens is because the dribble penetration forces your defense to collapse in some way. You get sent in rotation. Maybe your rim protector has to move to help contest the shot. Anything like that can really, really stymie your defense's efficiency. Now, in this third clip, the Bucks might be in a 3-2 zone here, judging by where Chris Livingston and Giannis are standing right now and where Pat Connaughton is. But in a 3-2 zone, one of the most important principles is that you don't allow easy penetration. You don't want anyone to easily be able to get in this area and bust your zone, because what happens is that everyone has to collapse and open threes are allowed. Here, Pat Connaughton has his hands up, but he's pretty easily blown by Jordan Clarkson, who basically has a wide open layup. And that's an example of the Bucks having poor point of attack defense this year, especially from Dame, from Pat, from Malik Beasley. So in this fourth clip, we're going to showcase some of the vulnerabilities that are exposed when you have weak point of attack defenders. Clarkson, again, easily drives into Beauchamp here. He fakes that 3, and Olynyk here is going to very quickly sprint out to the 3-point arc. Now, watch Giannis temporarily lose Olynyk here. Now, Olynyk could have shot this. It would have been essentially a wide open 3. I don't think that Giannis can make it here to contest this 3 in time. But instead, he opts to drive the closeout, and whatever happens as a result of this, which is a pretty good charge and alley-oop, is the result of your defense getting sent into a tailspin because the initial dribble drive created so much space. Now, combined with poor point of attack defense this season, has also been a lot of miscommunication regarding switches, especially against the pick and roll, which seems to be the result of slightly shifting roles and defensive schemes that Adrian Griffin put in place after Budenholzer. So in this fifth clip, against teams with fast off-screen shooters like Lauri Markkanen, fumbled switches can lead to easy threes on top of the deep drop coverage that Brook Lopez likes to play. Here, Andre Jackson Jr. has Chris Dunn, and Giannis has Lauri. You can see that Lauri is already going to this screen right here. He already motioned to it back there. But what ends up happening is that he's going to ghost this screen. He's going to slip under. He's not really going to make any contact with Jackson Jr. And in this situation, looks like Giannis was expecting for Andre Jackson Jr. to switch on to Lauri, as Giannis has been doing a lot with Bobby Portis already. But you can see that in this moment, it only takes maybe 1 or 2 seconds of hesitation. Lauri already has a step on Giannis. He's already motioning and looking at Chris Dunn. And basically instantly, as soon as Giannis doesn't make the switch, or as soon as Andre Jackson doesn't make the switch, Lauri's already basically shooting that three within a second of that. And moments like this happen a lot, especially against teams that shoot like the Utah Jazz. And there's something that the Bucks are going to fall victim to if they continue to fumble a lot of their coverages. So in this sixth clip, let's not forget that the Bucks still have gifted individual defenders like Giannis himself. And it's not like they mess up all their switches. So what happens here is that, once again, Jordan Clarkson is able to get pretty good dribble penetration on Beauchamp. He's able to get inside the paint. But what ends up happening is a pretty good recovery by Giannis. So right now, he's drawn the eyes of basically both guys in the interior. Walker Kessler recognizes this. You can see right here that he's motioning and about to set this screen on Giannis's backside. And Lauri is already motioning right here for Jordan Clarkson to pass him the ball so we can hit this three. But watch Giannis navigate pretty well around this screen and manage to contest this shot, seemingly forcing Lauri to put a bit too much air on the ball. And I think what's happening there is that, moments where Giannis can save your possession with his pretty top level contests and closeouts have been pretty few and far between, especially against trigger-happy teams. And a lot of these matchups where they're getting 120 plus poured on them, you can see the frustration build up over the course of the game. Here, the Jazz are running staggered screens at the wing. Andre Jackson Jr.'s man is Chris Dunn. He's the ball handler. Malik Beasley's got Jordan Clarkson, and Brook Lopez is presumably going to stay and drop in order to contain John Collins if he decides to make any sort of roll off of these staggered screens. So Collins sets a pretty good screen on Andre Jackson Jr. You can see here that he prevents him from going over or staying on Chris Dunn at all. But you can also see that Malik Beasley is actually already pointing for Andre Jackson Jr. to switch. In fact, Brook Lopez is also pointing for Andre Jackson Jr. to switch onto Jordan Clarkson, who currently is uncovered, right? They've done some switches. Chris Dunn is now on Malik Beasley. Brook Lopez wants to contain John Collins, who looks like he's beginning to roam around into this empty side. And Andre Jackson Jr. is supposed to have Clarkson, but he's not seeing that. He stays with Collins, as you can see, and even Lopez begins to backpedal a bit here. I'm not sure if he doesn't see that Andre Jackson Jr. isn't going to cover Jordan Clarkson. But this ends up being a complete defensive breakdown. Chris Dunn makes the easiest pass in NBA history. You can see Brook Lopez already has his arms extended. He can't believe it. And this is just a practice shot. no one is on Jordan Clarkson. That's a wide open three, and that's just frustration. Just, watch Brook Lopez's body language here. You can tell he's clearly frustrated, and I think it's interesting because while Brook Lopez can theoretically, maybe should have in that situation, recognized the fumbled switch and gone onto Jordan Clarkson, schematically, that type of thing should never be happening. Schematically, if Brook Lopez is going to continue to play in deep drop, as he has pretty successfully for the past few seasons, you wouldn't expect that type of thing to happen, especially with a championship roster. So in this 8th clip, we have a baseline out of bounds play from Will Hardy. Presumably, Portis, fights pretty hard to avoid this switch onto Jordan Clarkson. You can see right here that he's kind of wrestling with Lowry. He wants to stay matched up so that Beauchamp doesn't have to end up switching onto Lowry, which would be a mismatch. Walker Kessler is going to get the inbound, and then he's going to move pretty quickly to this DHO. So he's going to give a DHO here, and then he's going to rescreen and tell Jordan Clarkson to run that way while he rescreens on Beauchamp. So what happens is that another change that Adrian Griffin installed in the Bucks defense, or at least is more common, is some of these temporary traps on pick and rolls. Watch Giannis and Beauchamp both look at Clarkson right now. They're trying to trap him, right? They spend a bit too long. Walker Kessler pretty easily slips out of here. It's a tough pass from Jordan Clarkson, but an easy bucket from Walker Kessler. What's happening is that we're seeing a lot more situations like these arise in the Bucks pick and roll coverage this year with these adjustments. Theoretically, playing more aggressive your coverages like this could result in more turnovers, except that it hasn't for the Bucks. Opponents have taken advantage of this and are generating a lot more in the paint than in prior seasons with Budenholzer's more conservative coverages. If you loved seeing Brook Lopez get angry, here's another one. Now, the Bucks have suffered this season in their transition defense massively. The ball has just barely crossed half court here, and you can see that Brook Lopez already recognizes, he's pointing already to Chris Dunn, who's here in the corner, that Malik Beasley, who's right here, presumably matching up with John Collins, has the wrong man. You can see him begin to motion. He literally motions with his hands. Hey, look, Chris Dunn is in the corner here. He's not being covered. But you can also see that Malik Beasley has his back turned to Brook Lopez. It's almost as if he's motioning to Fontecchio here. Hey, look, we aren't covering Chris Dunn. And by the time Malik Beasley realizes this, you can see here that Brook has got his hands up. He's incredulous. He can't believe this is happening right now. Dunn has already driven this gap, and the Bucks defense is just going to get sent in rotation. Jordan Clarkson's going to attempt this three. He's going to be really aggressive, get a great offensive rebound. Lowry's going to put up a shot and get fouled. And this possession has just turned into a total disaster for the Bucks, who are already down by almost 30 points. And I think this is a great example of what happens whenever you have some of these defensive problems. People who get mismatched, and then these mismatches might lead to open shooters. The open shooters are going to drive closeouts if the closeout's quick enough. And when your defense just gets sent in rotation and collapsed, usually what happens is something like this where you have to deliver a pretty, you don't want to foul while you're down 30, but you have to, right? And that's a story of what the Bucks defense has looked like a lot this season. So just to cap it off, I just want to play these clips of the Bucks failing to properly get back and defend in transition while talking about the Adrian Griffin firing. While it's pretty rare that a coach whose team is 30-13 gets fired, no matter what shortcomings they may have, I think it's important to consider how these defensive weaknesses that we've covered today can forecast how the Bucks might struggle not only in the playoffs, but in the next 40 games, right? Weak point of attack defense, poor pick and roll coverages, poor transition defense. All of these things, especially point of attack and pick and roll, can really collapse and stymie your half-court defense in the playoffs where it becomes much slower. It seems to me, from the outside, like the Bucks organization, Giannis, Brook Lopez, maybe Dame, and the rest recognize this as a large problem and are hoping, just hoping, that Doc Rivers can help them out. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos just like this.